At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601. Seeing his ship being gradually engulfed by the whirlpool, Hume felt a little sad, and then he touched the deck of the icebreaker, thinking to himself, when he could drive this black blade in the Atlantis Center building. Ying Ziyue frowned slightly. He was also on the channel now, listening to the success of the number 1 fleet, and he was relieved. It seems that these vortices are not a big problem for the icebreakers in the east. Next, July 23 will only care about the issue of time. In another sea area, the Kawasaki National Fleet was whaling. Just now, 2 of their ships were hit by a boulder, and now they are leaking. Stupid, Captain Hanzo yelled. The ships of Kawasaki were already struggling in this whirlpool zone. The loss of these 2 ships made them even worse. The crew on the side looked at the iron rod next to him and suddenly said, should we abandon this iron rod and run away? With the power of Kawasaki's ships, there may be a chance to escape from this whirlpool area. Hearing these words, Hanzo slapped the crew member's face fiercely. You idiot. If this iron rod hadn't existed, we would have been dragged into the whirlpool a long time ago. You are harming us. The crew member did not dare to say a word for a moment, and Hanzo said in a cold voice, although I don't know what this iron rod is for, every step of the project in the east is centered on saving the world. I will never do it for my own safety. The world is in danger. This is the Eastern Rescue Team. Please answer when you receive it. An Eastern voice came from the signal receiver, and all the crew members instantly became excited. Hanzo grabbed the microphone and said in a very orthodox Oriental language, this is the Kawasaki National Fleet. Please support. As soon as the voice fell, I saw a flash of lightning and thunder in the sky, and a storm struck. In this submarine vortex group, a storm has occurred, which is no different from the disaster of extinction. With a bang, hundreds of meters of huge waves slap them fiercely. Fortunately, there is a huge iron rod, and the Kawasaki country's fleet can survive the huge waves. The storm set off huge waves, and the sea showed unparalleled anger. Hanzo's face changed drastically. Such a harsh ocean environment is definitely the most terrifying in his sailing career. The sudden storm made the already crumbling Kawasaki National Fleet even more vulnerable. With a crash, a huge wave came, and a ship was once again involved in the deep sea. This is the Eastern Rescue Team. We have arrived. Hearing this sound, everyone looked out, except for the endless storm. There was no trace of a ship. Damn it. Is Dongfang teasing us? As soon as their words fell, they saw a huge deep sea ship rushing out of the water in front of them. The huge body was even bigger than the huge iron rod in front of them. Here is the Oriental Giant. Here we are. Hanzo knelt on the ground with a thump. Is this the East? With such a huge ship, why not conquer the sea? The Giant has connected 5.5 supplies and is ready to set off. Dive into the deep sea. Stretch out 2 mechanical arms to clamp the iron rod, and then start the engine. The entire Kawasaki country fleet is advancing as fast as an arrow from the string. Looking at the surrounding scenery, Hanzo retreated quickly and couldn't help but sigh. Is this the Giant of the East? At the moment they are standing in the hands of giants. Chapter 602. The vicinity of Kawasaki country happens to be near the city where the Giant is anchored. Compared with the rescue speed of the rescue team, the speed of the Giant is faster. For a time, a large number of transport fleets were rescued by ships from the east, but there was no news about the Eagle Nation fleet on the other side. The rescue team used airborne satellites to search, and things quickly became apparent. Above the vast sea, an area was completely dark on the satellite map. The only possibility is that there is a strong electromagnetic in this area, which interferes with the signals of satellites in the sky. This situation is very rare, but the current situation is not easy to predict. It is very likely that the submarine earthquake has caused the underground magnetic field to change. Maybe the Eastern Rescue Team has no time to guess. Go and check that area first. Every fleet can do nothing. At this time, all the crew of the Eagle Nation fleet looked terrifying, and the scenery outside the ship was like Apocalypse Point. The sky was covered by a large thundercloud, and one after another sky thunder fell from the sky, smashing into the sea around them. The electronic instruments on their ship were all paralyzed under the attack of a sky thunder. The surrounding sea was filled with a large number of whirlpools, and one after another boulders were rolled up from the seabed by the whirlpool. Bang, bang, rubble hit the ship, and the crew of the Eagle Nation kept praying, hoping that those tens of meters in diameter would not hit the ship they were on point just now. A 50-meter diameter boulder directly smashed a ship into a discus. This scene is still lingering in the minds of every crew member like a demon point. Now they can only cling to this huge iron rod, praying that the storm will pass sooner, but they did not consider that, even if the thundercloud dissipated and the storm ceased, they would never be able to escape from this seabed vortex group in their current state. At this moment, the signal receiver on a ship began to creak, and intermittent voices came from it. This the East. The rescue team answer. It's the rescue team from the East. For a time, the entire fleet was like a drowning man grabbing the last straw and frantically calling for help. As the leader of this rescue team, Liu Yanglian opened the map and located the location of the Eagle Nation's distress signal point. When he detected the situation in the surrounding waters, his brows were frowned, and there was nothing worse than this situation. In the center of this sea area, there is a huge seabed vortex with a center diameter of about 10 meters or more. Such a huge vortex can no longer be easily solved by a few torpedoes ready to drop a geothermal bomb. Geothermal bomb. This bomb is definitely the most direct weapon developed by geothermal technology. The principle is very simple, which is to use geothermal particles as a detonator, then install it on the torpedo, and then remotely blast the torpedo after the torpedo enters a vortex point. Disrupt the flow of the vortex through the fluctuations caused by the explosion, so that the vortex is temporarily calmed down. The current Eagle National Fleet is very close to that huge vortex. If the Eastern rescue team passes now, it will be difficult to complete the rescue within a limited time point. A careless person is very likely to drag the Eastern rescue team into the water together. Immediately, a torpedo carrying a geothermal bomb was launched point on the Eagle Nation fleet. All the crew stared at the signal receiver in front of them attentively. Point at this moment, there was a loud noise, and a flower of flame bloomed on the sea in the distance. Chapter 603. My God. What is this? The torpedo carried a geothermal bomb deep into the vortex, and then Liu Yanglian detonated the bomb. Liu Yanglian never expected that the power of this geothermal particle could be so huge. The torpedo had already penetrated the seabed, and after detonation, the flower of flame could still be seen on the sea surface. The huge explosion directly calmed the maelstrom. Before the Eagle Nation fleet could relax, the aftermath of the explosion pushed the huge wave towards them. With a loud bang, the Eagle Nation fleet was pushed out of the center of the whirlpool. Only then did they see the Eastern rescue team not far away. We are here. Save us. Come and save us. For a while, the Eagle Nation crew, who usually prides themselves as a gentleman, is now waving his arms frantically, for fear that the other side will not be able to find himself. The Eastern rescue team worked in one go, rescued the crew, fixed a huge iron rod, and then turned on its horsepower. The crew of the Eagle Nation sat on the Eastern ship and couldn't help but feel lingering in their hearts about what happened just now. Point at this moment, a huge wave rushed toward them, and the expressions of the crew of the Eagle Nation changed greatly. On the other hand, the crew in the East looked clean, and saw the icebreaker oared in the East, plunged into the huge wave, and the whole ship pierced the huge wave like a sharp arrow. This is the number 3 fleet, which successfully received the Eagle National Fleet and is now rushing to the target location. The crew of the Eagle Nation stared at the crew of the East. Is this the Navy of the East? Facing those huge waves, they were so embarrassed, and in front of the crew of the East, those hideous shipwrecks were like children. This is the Navy of the East, and this is the son of Poseidon. At the Atlantis Center building, Ying Ziyue watched the red dots on the map start to move constantly, and a gleam of light flashed in her eyes. Prepare to go to various locations to drop the Xihai City. That's right. This huge iron rod is called Xihai City. Once these iron rods are placed in designated places on the seabed, no matter how fierce the seabed turbulence is, they will not be able to make waves. In ancient times, there was Dayu to control the water, but now there is Dongfang Zhenhai. One after another huge Xihai City travels to seas all over the world. Coordinates 11 and 22 have been placed. Coordinates 285 placement is complete. Coordinates 1, 56. Placement is complete. A series of coordinates were uploaded to the central building of Atlantis. Ying Ziyue looked at the coordinates one after another, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly point in another area of the sea. The giant arrived at the coordinate point, and saw it release the shackles of the Xihai needle, and a huge iron rod instantly sank into the sea point. The giant deep sea ship hurriedly began to trim the falling process of the Xihai City to ensure that it could land at the designated position. With a muffled bang, Xihai City nailed firmly into the ground. This is not over yet. After the Xihai City needle entered the seabed, the bottom immediately began to spread around, and iron rods spread around like the roots of a big tree. After these iron rods are completely fixed, no matter how turbulent the seabed is, it will stand still like Mount Tay. For a while, the entire sea area was full of Xihai City. Ying Ziyue watched the last red dot fall into the coordinate point, and let out a long sigh of relief. It's finally over. No one understands what is the use of such an unpretentious iron rod. Now is the time to show its true value. What is called Xihai City. Chapter 604. One after another huge iron rods were thrown into the deep sea, and thousands of huge iron rods were put down in the Atlantis Center building. Ying Ziyue pressed a button, only to hear a magnetic male voice. Poseidon system is at your service. Since the construction of the submarine city, the Poseidon system has been under development. If the satellite nodes in the sky are the bases of various systems, then those ding Poseidon needles are the bases of the Poseidon system. The Poseidon system reminds us that a total of 381 cities are currently under attack. What is the degree of damage in the most severely damaged city? After the inspection and search, the most severely damaged city is Longlin, and the damage has dropped to 80%. Turn on the Xihai God needle and proceed to Zhenhai operation. With an order, the Xihai City across the seabed sent a series of electronic signals up and down point immediately afterwards. These Xihai City needles were like the trunk of a tree, and a large number of branches grew from all around, and these branches continued to spread. In less than a minute, a heavenly iron tree appeared on the bottom of the sea, and the huge ocean current ceased to impact this giant steel tree all the time. But it, like King Fu Doming, stands still in the face of the turbulent flow of the sea. Each of these Xihai God trees is located above the eye of the wind at the source of the ocean currents. After the impact of the Xihai God tree, those ocean currents can no longer make waves. The seabed that was raged by turbulence has now restored its original tranquility. In Atlantis, Ying Ziyue looked at the detection system in the air corridor on the side, showing that the surrounding ocean currents were rapidly decreasing, and the original tranquility was soon restored. Ying Ziyue rubbed her eyebrows. It was already 7 o'clock in the morning. This series of rescue operations only took about 4 hours. In these short 4 hours, they experienced a triple blow from a volcanic eruption, an undersea earthquake, and a turbulent turbulence. As the commander-in-chief, Ying Ziyue did not close his eyes for 3 days and 3 nights, and was very concentrated. The secretary on the side asked with concern, "Mr. Ying, you need to rest now." She was watching Ying Ziyue's performance just now. Although he was sitting here, the safety of the whole world was tightly holding his hand. He once again led mankind to victory. Only she deeply understood all of this. After a long time, Ying Ziyue did not respond. The moment he relaxed, he was already asleep. The secretary just gently spread the blanket on Ying Ziyue's body, and this battle without gunpowder came to an end. However, when dawn came, the rescued Western crew members were like crazy believers, wantonly publicizing the power of the East. The Eastern rescue team is like a sea god, coming and going freely in the storm. Kawasaki said that the East is a giant, and it takes me out of the sea of suffering with the hand of God. The Eagle Country said that the East is a romantic powerhouse. Save us from the storm with the flower of flame. The Rose Kingdom said that the East is a retrograde, and they are the true sons of the sea god. A large number of Eastern remarks were promoted from the mouths of these Western crews. The Eastern people who had just gotten up were slightly taken aback. What is going on with these Westerners? I usually like to sing the opposite. Why is it like having a chicken blood today? Chapter 605. Soon, the people of the East gradually learned from the mouths of those Western crew members what a huge feat the Great Eastern Country made last night. Residents of some submarine cities on online forums began to speak, and the details of the battle began to be discovered. I'm a protective cover maintenance worker. I saw with my own eyes last night that an iron rod fell from the sky and then gradually turned into a heavenly iron tree, firmly suppressing the eye of the sea current. Huge iron rod. It turns out that that huge iron rod is used for this purpose. It is too powerful. I never thought that the Great Eastern Kingdom actually developed the legendary Xihai City. This is nothing. I tell you that the Great Eastern countries have developed new types of energy, and their power has completely overwhelmed nuclear power. I saw with my own eyes the deep sea ship of the Great Eastern Power Giant. It is extremely huge. With this country's heavy weapon, what sorrow does the East have? A series of remarks about the East flowed from Western countries, and the people of the East smiled slightly as they watched the praise on the forum. In fact, most people in the East don't know what happened last night. They only know that they slept peacefully under the shelter of the Great Eastern countries. Taishan collapsed before his eyes, and his face remained unchanged. I'm afraid that this is a current situation of the Oriental people. They believe in the East. Believe in your own country. For a time, the official website also announced the Poseidon plan to the public in time. From the beginning of the seabed construction to Xihai, a series of project layouts are breathtaking. After sleeping for a whole day and night, Ying Ziyue slowly woke up. The first thing she woke up, Ying Ziyue turned on all the systems at the same time. Air corridor system for you, Poseidon system for you, global positioning system for you, energy storage data for you. Ying Ziyue is like a military parade, checking the specific data of each system point. After tidying up all night, the next day, the secretary walked into Ying Ziyue's bedroom with breakfast and found that Ying Ziyue's bedroom was full of blueprints. Even now, Ying Ziyue still likes to record things with pen and paper. Mr. Ying, you are awake. Well, I woke up last night. The secretary was going to remind Ying Ziyue to take more rest. At this moment, Ying Ziyue suddenly said, just last night, I counted the energy reserves of various projects around the world. Today, the production capacity of various projects in the world has far exceeded the consumption. Zero fine flowers nowadays. Disasters in various parts of the world have been transformed into production capacity projects for the Great Eastern countries. From the descending of the sky thunder to the suppression of the volcan, all projects transform the anger of nature into energy materials that are beneficial to mankind. This makes today's energy reserves sufficient for all mankind to use for about 100 years. Even if all these projects are stopped, excessive energy reserves will only cause these energy to be lost in vain, and it may also cause some unnecessary risks. Now the East is like a fat man hoarding a large amount of fat, which needs to be consumed quickly, and use these fats for beneficial actions. Therefore, Ying Ziyue spent the whole night and made a plan to benefit all mankind, called the Great Evolutionary Action. The Great Eastern countries will start to squander a lot of energy and use energy to pave the way to promote the advancement of human civilization, use a lot of energy for development, and strive to move towards the direction of secondary civilization. Now the East has this capital, death. Chapter 606. Ying Ziyue sent the first draft of the Great Evolution Operation to the Central Group, which is full of national leaders. Their every move is likely to affect the direction of the entire human race. Central engineering. My god, the energy reserves of our major Eastern countries are so rich, I don't even know. Energy center, don't get cheap and sell well. You don't know how much effort we spend every day in order to maintain and manage these energy sources. Marine Management Bureau, we have enough here. After the Xihai needles absorbed the turbulent flow of the seabed, they produced a large amount of electricity. Recently, the energy reserve can't fit it. Would you like to give you some? Energy center. Sorry, our warehouse is full and can't fit anymore. Engineering center. It doesn't matter. Leave it to me to guarantee you a complete warehouse within 1 day. Ying Ziyue. A file was sent. After a series of receptions, everyone's attitude instantly changed 180 degrees. Energy center. Who just said that there are too many energy reserves. Come and come. No one will refuse. Ying Ziyue. After experiencing the submarine earthquake, a large number of submarine mineral deposits have been exposed on the surface, where they can be exploited. We now have enough energy reserves to safely mine underground minerals. Ying Ziyue. Don't be afraid of excessive energy consumption. Now we don't need to save energy at all. We just need to let go and do it. Engineering center. Since the team leader Ying has spoken, then our engineering center is not welcome. Energy center. It can be made. I can manage it. National engineer Xihai, upon receiving the news from his superior, opened the #1 project warehouse. Upon receiving this news, Xihai's eyes widened, knowing that the big guy in warehouse #1 is a foodie, and he was adhering to the slogan of saving energy. When it was not a last resort, this big guy almost flashes in this warehouse. Now, it's time to start this big guy again. The behemoth of steel that opened up the frozen ground. The #1 engineering machine. The height of this engineering machine is a full 20 meters, and it is equipped with nearly 100 batteries behind it. Rumble. This behemoth of steel drove out of the engineering center. And almost all engineers knew its great name. What's the matter? Why did you drive this big guy out again? Is our engineering department so rich? Aren't you afraid that the Department of Energy will come to you? Hey, this engineering machine has been pulled out. It happened that a mine was under the frozen ground recently. We still can't help it. For a while, in the snowstorm, the #1 engineering machine violently pushed away the thick snow like a beast, opening a road on the ground. When we came to the project site, this area was surrounded by a large number of project walls, and the #1 machine entered the project site 0. All the engineers' eyes lit up, knowing that this first unit has made great achievements in the early stage. If it is not, because it consumes too much energy, it may be mass produced. I saw the drill bit on the front end of the #1 engineering machine turning frantically, and then the drill bit turned down. In less than an hour, the entire frozen soil layer was penetrated. The fresh soil revealed the figure, and then the first machine began to push the surrounding thick snow. 3 hours later, a mine was opened up. If these engineering teams continue to develop, it will take at least 3 days to achieve this. But now with this engineering behemoth, it only takes 3 hours to open up a perfect mine. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607. After the #1 engineering machine was started, 3 open pit mines were quickly opened up. No matter how thick the frozen soil layer is, it is like a sharp blade inserted deep into the frozen soil layer. An open pit mine was opened up abruptly in the ice and snow, but the energy consumption of the #1 engineering machine was also huge. The energy consumption in the past few days is almost comparable to the electricity consumption of a small city in 1 day. In addition, the energy consumption of the #1 engineering machine is too huge, making it unable to operate in mines far away from the city. Ying Ziyue also received feedback on the #1 engineering machine. Although the energy reserve is not a problem at all, they can't squander it arbitrarily. After all, the role of the first engineering machine is limited, and now the equipment of the engineering department needs to be updated. The current engineering department should focus on resource development for the machinery developed by the engineering department. Ying Ziyue said to the secretary, "Let's go to the Engineering Research Institute. Do you want to take a train or a UFO? UFO. It's faster this way." Since the construction of the submarine city cluster, Ying Ziyue has rarely used UFO as a means of transportation. Afterwards, Ying Ziyue stepped on the UFO and detected his identity, and the UFO system was instantly activated. Welcome back. The spacecraft system is being activated. Connect to the air satellite system, connect to the air corridor system, turn on the intelligent assistance system. If it is not used for too long, UFOs will automatically fall into a dormant state. Nowadays, with a large number of system updates, UFOs need to reconnect to the system to obtain permissions after the system is activated. Ying Ziyue enters the address of the Engineering Research Institute. Determine the destination and expect to arrive in 1 hour, 30 minutes. If you take the train, it will take at least 1 day to reach the Engineering Research Institute. Point booming. The UFO's engine started to start. Listening to the roar of the UFO, Ying Ziyue couldn't help but wonder if the geothermal power was applied to the UFO, would the UFO's speed be faster? Ying Ziyue thought of this and secretly put this plan in her own schedule in her heart. The UFO took off quickly, turning into an afterimage and disappearing into the sky. Ying Ziyue stood by the window, looking at the smaller and smaller cities below. In this endless white hell, the figure of the city is extremely small. Yes, human beings seem so small in front of nature. But it is such a small human being who has survived time and time again. They were not overthrown, and they were not afraid. They used mortal bodies to compare with gods, building huge lightning rods, connecting cities under the sea, and suppressing them by Vulcan. Under a series of great power projects, human beings no longer huddle in the city and linger. Now they have begun to fight this white hell. Blizzard chariots whizzed and galloped on the ice field, and construction machinery roared on the frozen soil. One engineer after another is walking against the wind, wearing heavy protective clothing. They are constantly moving forward in the snowy field, using instruments to find the minerals buried deep in nature. These retrogrades are not afraid of the cold or danger, because behind them is the East, the miraculous Oriental power. At this time, the ice sheet was covered with human footprints. Ying Ziyue took a deep breath. Have you seen this flourishing age? This sentence seems to be saying to his past self how weak he was in the face of the cold wave in the past, and now he can stand high above the sky and look down on the flourishing age of mankind. Chapter 608. Not long after the UFO landed on the city's tarmac, a large number of people had been waiting for it long ago. This is Yanjing City. Now Yanjing is already a central city, and a large number of national backbones have stayed in Yanjing after retirement. Yanjing now has the most advanced technology in the entire East, as well as the most scientific research personnel, and it is ahead of the cities of the major Eastern countries in any respect. After returning to her hometown, Ying Ziyue looked at the ever-changing city and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. How long it has been since she has been back here. Leader Ying, our engineering R&D department has been waiting for you here early in the morning. You must visit our engineering R&D department. Of course, this time I returned to Yanjing for the engineering research and development department. Since the beginning of the submarine project, Ying Ziyue has rarely intervened in the engineering research and development department. With the implementation of the Shanghai God Plan, a large amount of resources have been inclined to submarine projects. Therefore, this time Ying Ziyue also came to see if there are any new results from the engineering R&D department this time, and the resources mining technology can be targeted to tilt resources. After leaving the apron, Ying Ziyue followed everyone to the station. Today, Yanjing also advocates magnetic levitation technology, and magnetic levitation vehicles have been popularized throughout Yanjing. Ying Ziyue looked out the window as the car moved forward, and one after another high-rise buildings rose from the ground, treating the land like a steel forest. And around these high-rise buildings, there are one after another magnetic levitation road like a satellite orbiting belt. Yanjing's land can be said to be applied to the extreme. Every inch of land is planned to the extreme point in the inner ring of the city. The outer ring is an experimental greenhouse. Recently, Yanjing still has plans to open up an underground city. When he arrived at the engineering R&D department, Lu Wei, the head of the engineering R&D department, immediately pulled Ying Ziyue into a laboratory. Leader Ying, look at this. Lu Wei took out a palm-sized piece of metal from the counter. Ying Ziyue reached out and touched it. Who knew that this seemingly metal object felt like glass? This is the latest engineering material developed by our engineering research and development department. It is called diamond steel. It is harder than diamonds. It is even better than the most widely used graphene so far. Upon hearing this, Ying Ziyue was a little surprised, knowing that graphene has an unshakable position in applied materials. Since its inception point, if this diamond steel is really much better than graphene, then you can consider producing it in a large area. However, Ying Ziyue saw the embarrassment on Lu Wei's face, and understood that this diamond steel must have certain defects. That's right. Although this diamond steel can be said to be the top material in all aspects, however, just like its name, its cost is even more expensive than diamonds and gold. This condition can only mean that it can only be used as a material for the manufacture of engineering equipment, such as the use of diamond steel on some drill bits, which is not cost effective for large-scale popularization. Ying Ziyue touched her chin, and then said, this diamond steel can be applied to some engineering equipment. If it is to be popularized in a large area, it needs to be improved. The research of this diamond steel can be regarded as a special research. Hearing these words, a boulder in Lu Wei's heart landed. Now that Ying Ziyue is satisfied, their engineering R&D department has lived up to the country's expectations. Chapter 609. Minister Lu, the geothermal engine we just applied for has arrived. A researcher hurried in. After seeing Ying Ziyue, he quickly bowed with a solemn expression. Leader Ying. Ying Ziyue waved her hand and said, it's okay. You said that you got a batch of geothermal engines. What are you going to do? The researcher first glanced at Lu Wei, and after getting permission from Lu Wei, he explained to Ying Ziyue. It turned out that there was a prototype of the first engineering machine in the engineering research and development department. Recently, I have received various questions about the first engineering machine. So the engineering research and development department is going to upgrade the first engineering machine. Now, with the diamond steel and the latest batch of geothermal engines, the personnel of the engineering research and development department have begun to transform the first engineering machine. For a while, Ying Ziyue was also a little curious, ready to go to the scene, to observe. Lu Wei is even more happy. As long as Ying Ziyue is more satisfied, the more development resources they will obtain in the future, it would be more appropriate to be able to demonstrate the technology of their engineering R&D department. I came to a workshop. Workshop number 1 is a relatively spacious place among all workshops. After all, the number 1 engineering machine is also a behemoth. Rumble, the number 1 engineering aircraft roared on the scene, and the current number 1 engineering aircraft still uses the crawler as the way of traveling. And the battery behind it is very bloated. At this moment, a sound of rotating mechanical gears sounded, and a huge mechanical arm on the roof slowly moved over. This huge robotic arm is dubbed Demolition Number 1 by the people in the engineering research and development department. Almost all types of construction machinery have been educated by it. The original huge number 1 engineering machine looked like a toy car in front of it, and the mechanical arm clamped the number 1 engineering machine. Then the engineers quickly stepped forward, padded the platform under the fuselage of the number 1 project, and began to analyze the number 1 project wholeheartedly. The biggest energy problem of the original number 1 engineering machine, the engineers chose today's most popular geothermal engine as an alternative. The power of the geothermal engine is enough to support all the power of the original engineering machine, and it also solves the problem of excessive power loss. Moreover, the geothermal engine was more than enough to drive the number 1 engineering machine, and immediately some engineers proposed to increase the functional parts of the number 1 engineering machine. There are also the parts of the first engineering machine. The bracket is replaced with a graphene bracket, the shell is made of insulating steel, and the drill and tools are made of the latest diamond steel. Afterwards, the drawing of the number 2 engineering machine was drawn. Ying Ziyue smiled helplessly when she saw the drawing. It was not so much an engineering machine as an engineering fortress. However, the role of the engineering machine plays an important role in the development of resources. If you want to do a good job, you must first sharpen its tools. Once the number 2 engineering machine is developed, it will definitely push back the progress of resource development. Now, after a series of geological changes, a large number of mineral deposits have been discovered one after another. It's just that some mineral deposits cannot be mined due to harsh environments, and the functions of the second engineering machine cover most of the situations. The progress of the second engineering machine can be accelerated. I will help you apply for development funds. This sentence was addressed to Lu Wei. Lu Wei was delighted when he heard this sentence and patted his chest and said, although this matter is handed over to our engineering research and development department, we only need to give us a week to ensure the completion of the task. Chapter 610. After visiting the development of number 2 engineering machine, Ying Ziyue selectively checked it in the engineering research and development department. The work of the engineering R&D department is to develop various props suitable for various projects, ranging from construction machinery to various excavation tools. At this moment, when Ying Ziyue passed by a proving ground, she was deeply attracted by the scene in front of her. I saw an engineer wearing white armor actually fell directly to the ground from an altitude of hundreds of meters, with a loud bang, and a huge deep pit appeared on the ground point. But then a surprising scene appeared, and the engineer stood up unscathed. Not only that, this engineer can crush rocks with his bare hands and easily lift 1,000 kilograms of steel. This is no longer the level of ordinary people. Although other R&D departments have developed mechas, the mechas are mostly used in the transportation process, not to mention heavy and poor flexibility. However, the armor in front of him reminded him of a movie called Iron Man before the Ice Age. The armor in front of him was almost exactly the same as the steel armor in his impression. Seeing Ying Ziyue was very interested, Lu Wei immediately introduced this research and development project. Quite simply, the external environment is very harsh nowadays, and some special situations are often encountered, such as frozen soil blocks in small caves. Under this circumstance, it is difficult for those large-scale construction machinery to continue to move forward, and it will be very difficult if manpower is used, resulting in the stagnation of the progress of the project. Inspired by the superalloy armor, the researchers chose to modify the structure of the superalloy armor to fit more closely to the human body. The material is relatively thin and light alloy, and finally this sci-fi armor is made. Ying Ziyue stepped off the viewing platform and walked to the test field in person, saying that she was going to try the armor. This armor is called GC armor, and it is currently the 3rd generation armor. I saw the researcher input Ying Ziyue's information into the GC armor. The GC armor opened from the center, revealing the black cockpit inside. Ying Ziyue's eyes lit up, and she took the initiative to lean forward, only to feel as if she was trapped in a puddle of liquid. In a blink of an eye, Ying Ziyue felt that the armor had merged with herself. The last mask rose slowly. After a brief period of darkness, the scenery in front of Ying Ziyue changed, and various data panels appeared before her eyes. But the surrounding field of vision is not obscured at all, and his field of vision is exactly the same as the normal field of vision of the human body! 0 Find flaws. The GC armor uses graphene as the skeleton, superalloy as the auxiliary skeleton, and the cockpit is filled with liquid sponge, which can absorb most of the external force. Just in case, nano liquid is added as a protection to resist most harsh environments. The outer shell is made of superalloy, and a little diamond steel is applied to the key parts, which is more rigid. Ying Ziyue tried to move around without feeling cumbersome at all, and then Ying Ziyue started a series of tests. The jumping power can reach 10 meters in one leap, and a full blow with a punch can cause a ton of impact, not to mention the ability to resist. Ying Ziyue only felt a slight vibration in the armor. After leaving the GC armor, Ying Ziyue asked Lu Wei if she could take this armor away. This armor was simply the realization of her childhood dream. Lu Wei said yes, as long as you register, Ying Ziyue can receive her own GC armor subsequently. Ying Ziyue once again gave a special research quota to this GC armor. Once this type of exoskeleton armor research and development technology matures, it can be used in all aspects. Death. Chapter 611. Among the Changshan mines on the other side. The Changshan mine is located near Changshan, which is one of the largest mines in the Great Eastern Country. At this time, the Changshan mine has successively mined various mineral deposits, which have been dug to a depth of about 10,000 meters in the ground. Ying is a miner. On this day, he went to the mine as usual. The mine went deep underground. Ying was wearing heavy protective clothing. As a matter of fact, the mine site under the ground of 10,000 meters is not as cold as on the ground 60, so I put on protective clothing just in case. Protective clothing can also provide immense help when the mine collapses. Today is a day when mines are mined underground. Every once in a while, Changshan Mine will use drilling rigs to develop new mines. Sometimes it will be developed downward based on old mines. Today, in the deepest mine, another drilling rig was mobilized from above. He said that he was going to go deep into the heart of the earth. Hearing this news, Ying couldn't help but worry. If he continued to dig like this, would he dig into the heart of the earth? When Ying came to the construction site, he only saw a black hole in front of the hole, and other workers placed warning signs in front of the hole. Vaguely, Ying also saw the light coming from the entrance of the cave. After a day of hard get-off work, Ying was about to get off work when he passed the construction site again. He saw an incredible scene. I saw the huge drilling rig parked at the entrance of the hole. What was surprising was that there were a series of scratches on the huge drill bit of the drilling rig. The original sharp drill bit seemed to be destroyed by something. The drill bit of this drilling rig is made of alloy. Are there other minerals in the world that can cause damage to alloy drill bits? On the other side, Ying Ziyue suddenly received a message that a new type of mineral was discovered in the Changshan mine. New minerals. Ying Ziyue frowned slightly, and the secretary on the side immediately called up a large amount of information to explain. At 11 o'clock in the morning at the Changshan mine, the drilling rig suddenly encountered special minerals at a distance of 3,000 meters underground, and the drill bit made of alloy was damaged on the spot. Hearing these words, Ying Ziyue's eyes brightened, knowing that among the minerals currently known, there are very few minerals that can cause damage to alloys, and the mineral in the photo is purple gold. It is a brand new mineral. After this mineral was refined, it showed a purple gold metallic luster, and its ductility tended to be gold, but its hardness was far greater than that of other metals, and even better than superalloys. How much is the reserve of mineral deposits? According to the metal characteristics, underground exploration is currently carried out. The Changshan mine site is about 13,000 meters away, and there are about hundreds of tons of raw ore of this ore. Yes, now we will focus on the development of the Changshan mine, and it will be announced on the official website. Once this ore is found, you can apply for state subsidies for mining. The corner of Ying Ziyue's mouth rose slightly. The discovery of a new type of mineral metal, just like the extraction of geothermal particles, will inevitably lead to a significant progress in civilization. A new type of mineral has been discovered in the East. Oh my god, how lucky Dongfang is. What kind of luck? If it weren't for the strong scientific and technological power of the great eastern countries, how could these minerals be discovered? Ying Ziyue played with the purple gold metal ball in her hand. It was like a work of art. Ying Ziyue named it a fine gold mine, based on its characteristics. For a time, applications for the call of the fine gold mine came from all directions. Chapter 612. Ying Ziyue pushed aside these calls. When these guys heard that there was a novel mineral, they couldn't bear their curiosity. You must know that they still have a lot of research that has not been completed. Ying Ziyue will not accept their call application until these researches are completed. The mining of fine gold mines has begun to be on the agenda. The Changshan mine is a relatively large mine in China, so when it is mined, the Changshan mine is also very cooperative. Soon, the refined gold ore has begun to be refined. The refined gold ore is light in weight, hard and malleable, and is very suitable for the use of some small equipment. Ying Ziyue touched the 02 bar, thinking about whether to build a new type of system that can count the production of minerals around the world. At this moment, news came from the Central Research Institute of Xihai City that a new breakthrough had been made in the study of geothermal particles after Xihai City developed the Vulcan energy extraction machine. It has gained a certain amount of tilt in terms of research resources later. In order to seize this opportunity, Xihai City began to conduct further research and development of geothermal particles. It is worth mentioning that the controllability of geothermal particles is far more stable than they thought, which allows them to further process geothermal ions. As a result, bold researchers applied nanoscale technology to geothermal particles. The level of danger is as simple as performing an operation on an atomic bomb. However, those researchers succeeded, completed the development of a small geothermal engine, and successfully separated the subparticles of the geothermal particles. This makes the power generation of a small geothermal engine comparable to a 20,000 mAh power bank. the research and development of a small geothermal engine made Ying Ziyue shine, and then went to the Geological Bureau to propose the idea of establishing a national resource detection network. Unexpectedly, the Geological Bureau had this idea for a long time. The WASP detector, which was a small detector used to collect information in the Ice Age. Ai Kang, a research and development staff member of the Geological Bureau, proposed to make a transformation on the basis of the WASP detector, increasing its ability to detect minerals with a small geothermal engine, not to mention the endurance of the WASP detector, as long as the insulation material is used for the shell of the WASP detector. A small amount of fine gold, or is used as the skeleton. So, this WASP detector is definitely the most invincible vanguard in this ice age. Just do it. Ying Ziyue immediately formulated a WASP plan, and factories across the country began to manufacture WASP detectors. Connect these WASP detectors into a hole through smart chips to form a global resource detection system. In this way, the WASP detector can replace the manual field detection, leaving a lot of manpower and material resources. The first batch of WASP detectors will be manufactured at 10,000 and then put into the eastern region. After testing the results, the second batch will be manufactured. Strive to establish the entire global resource detection system before the end of this year. Ying Ziyue distributed the order, and when the WASP detector was almost laid out, the second engineering machine on the other side was almost completed. In this case, it probably has the basic conditions for a great evolutionary action. What Ying Ziyue wants is to convert energy into resources, and resources to push away the civilized chain of industry, whether it is manufacturing a WASP detector, building a national resource detection system, or transforming the #1 engineering machine, researching and developing GC armor. They are all for the great evolutionary action, to lay a solid foundation. Only in this way can it be foolproof. Chapter 613. The body parts of the WASP detector have all been installed, and now there is only the brain part, which is the chip. When it comes to chip research, one has to mention the Longcheng Group, the largest chip manufacturing group in the Eastern Powers. Longcheng Group has been leading the world in the field of smart chips since before the Ice Age. After the Ice Age, Long Yang, the chairman of the Dragon City Group, also gave most of the company's shares to the country. Long Yang's family also served within the national system, and when he arrived at Long Yang, he chose to become a businessman. However, in the face of the national crisis, Long Yang, as a businessman, took the initiative to provide a large number of smart chips to the country, which greatly improved the chip level of the Great Eastern countries. Ying Ziyue went to Longcheng Group, and Long Yang immediately came to the door of the company. Upon receiving the news, many company employees recognized their boss at a glance and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Which major customer actually asked the boss to come out to greet him in person? When Ying Ziyue appeared, many employees suddenly realized that there were only human milestones like Ying Ziyue, and Long Yang did not dare to be negligent. After Ying Ziyue entered the company, many employees talked a lot about where their company can produce smart chips. Ying Ziyue came here, indicating that he wants to inspect the intelligence of Longcheng Group on the spot, and where this smart chip is ultimately used is worthy of exquisiteness. Walking into the company's chip research laboratory, Long Yang took the lead and said, "I also understand the purpose of team leader Ying this time. Chip, Dragon City generation." Upon hearing this, Ying Ziyue said jokingly, "It seems that Boss Long must be sure that your new smart chip developed by me can be selected by me." Long Yang smiled slightly. The reason why he is so confident is naturally that he has his own confidence. Longcheng Group's smart chip manufacturing technology is among the best in the world. Not to mention the tilt of national resources in recent years, so that Longcheng Group's smart chip research field has further development. When I came to the laboratory of the Dragon City I smart chip, the Dragon City I chip was only the size of a fingernail. However, the Dragon City generation smart chip uses folding technology. Regardless of this small piece of smart chip, the electronic units are dense enough to hit any chip on the market. The storage capacity can store all the data of a research institute, and has good pressure resistance. Even in harsh environments, it is difficult to damage the root. This is the first generation of Dragon City chips. The electronic unit receiver among them is definitely the top level in China. Ying Ziyue smiled, installed the chip on the test bench, and then started the simulation test point. It took only a second for the Dragon City Generation Smart Chip to start to connect to the air corridor system. This calculation speed is indeed 1,010 stream point. Subsequently, Ying Ziyue performed storage simulation again. Just as Long Yang said, even if all the data of Langcheng group is stored in, it will not affect its calculation speed. Yes, this Dragon City Generation Smart Chip will be given priority to the country. You can make a price, the price can go to the cost price, but I want to get the right to use the global resource system. After all, our R&D resources are not enough. Yes. Deal. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614. Now that all the materials are ready, a large number of wasp detectors have been developed. The first batch of 10,000 wasp detectors were distributed in groups of 100. In the Geological Inspection Bureau, Ying Ziyue opened the map, pointed to one of the areas and said, "This time the fixed time starts from the Siberian test site. This time, the fixed time starts from the Siberian test site." The experimenter on the side couldn't help but said, "Leader Ying, the environment in the Siberian experimental area is relatively harsh. Do you really want to start here? The worse the environment, the better. Only in this way can we demonstrate the adaptability of the wasp detector." After the experimenters heard it, they did not speak anymore, and then one by one the yellow spheres were loaded on the transport plane to Siberia. Compared with other regions, Siberia's ground situation is not that complicated. Therefore, it is most appropriate to set up a detection point here. Ying Ziyue took a UFO to the Siberian test site. Immediately after getting off the plane, personnel from the Siberian Proving Ground came out to greet him. "Mr. Ying, welcome to our Siberian experimental site." Ying Ziyue shook hands with him and picked up the work report of the Siberian Proving Ground as usual. At this moment, Ying Ziyue saw a message. Unknown ore was found underground in the Siberia number 1 area, and its reserves are very large. Is it going to be mined? Seeing this information, Ying Ziyue couldn't help but feel tensed, and then said to the person in charge of the Siberian Proving Ground, "What exactly is this unknown ore you are talking about? Can you show me?" "Of course, there is no problem." The personnel of the Siberian experimental site immediately sent a sample of the unknown ore. When Ying Ziyue saw the unknown ore, she was ecstatic. This ore is a fine gold mine. This is not the most important point. The important thing is that the information label says that the reserve of this unknown ore is extremely large. In other words, under this barren zone of Siberia, there is an extremely large number of fine gold mines hidden. Afterwards, Ying Ziyue looked at the support staff of the Siberian Proving Ground and said, "I just saw on your information report that the amount of unknown ore reserves here is extremely large." Yes. Team Leader Ying, not only did he also find this unknown ore in experimental field number 1 and experimental field number 2, but the reserves are still huge. How big is it? Preliminary estimates show that the reserves of the number 1 proving ground are thousands of tons, and the number 2 proving ground is only a lot more. Upon hearing these words, Ying Ziyue's eyes widened. She never expected that the Siberian experimental zone, which has always been the endorsement of barrenness, now actually produces a lot of fine gold mines. If all these fine gold mines were mined, it would be an extremely terrifying number. Ying Ziyue said to the person in charge of the Siberian test site in front of her, "This kind of ore is called fine gold mine. It is a very rare ore. From now on, all experiments will be stopped as long as the test site where fine gold mines are found. I will dispatch some mining troops here to mine fine gold mines. You must protect the safety of the mines." Unexpectedly, this time I came to Siberia for the test of the wasp detector. I could still encounter such a good thing in the dark. It seemed to have God's will. Chapter 615. The huge deposits of Siberia made Ying Ziyue happy, and the huge reserves of fine gold mines made many of his plans put on the agenda point at this moment. Ying Ziyue's secretary found him. Mr. Ying, AI Jin, deputy head of the Central Disaster Relief Center, invited you to talk to you. Central Disaster Relief Center? Ying Ziyue has some doubts. You should know that, since the air corridor system is built, disaster information around the world will be detected. In this case, what does the Central Disaster Relief Center have to find for itself? Thinking of this, Ying Ziyue came to a safe room and clicked on AI Jin's call invitation point. When he entered the call, AI Jin's voice came out, "Leader Ying, where did you go? I'm now at the Siberian test site, mining fine gold mines and building a national resource detection system network." Alas, you don't know, because of the turbulent flow of the seabed last time, the number of icebergs in the world has increased tremendously. Not only that, but now this kind of glaciers are clumped together because of the ocean currents, forming huge glaciers. Upon hearing these words, Ying Ziyue frowned slightly. This is not a small matter, you know. If huge icebergs are spurred by ocean currents, they can easily hit continental plates. This situation brings not only a huge earthquake, but also a lot of cold. If the volume and speed of the iceberg group is sufficient, it may even shake the foundation of the plate. Leader Ying, if these glaciers are individuals, it would be okay to say that after these glaciers have formed huge individuals, the volume of each glacier group is equivalent to a small continent. Our previous policy did not work for these glacier lands. During this period, our icebreakers suffered heavy losses because of these glaciers. Leader Ying, we have nothing to do. Do you have any good plans here? Ying Ziyue frowned, then suddenly remembered something and said, "Since they are bigger than them, we are bigger than them." What? I clicked on a file and sent it. After AI Jin received the file, after checking it, his eyes suddenly widened. Leader Ying, are you serious? In terms of current technology, this plan is completely feasible. You can sort out this document, send it to the official website, and gather engineers from all over the world who are good at this. Zero fine flowers. AI Jin looked at the document in front of him, and after thinking about it for a moment, he slapped the table and said, "Since it is the team leader's method, we will definitely cooperate." An hour later, a plan called Giant Soldiers was posted on the official website. The general content is that the country is going to carry out a construction project of a huge machine called the Giant Soldier, and it needs a large number of talents who are good at this aspect to apply for it. Zero at this time, Yanjing, a professor of ergonomics, was drinking coffee while browsing the web. When he saw that the official website had a new plan, he immediately clicked in point. After he saw this opportunity, his eyes widened and his coffee hand trembled slightly. Oh my god. It's crazy. My god. Is this a miracle in the Great Eastern Kingdom? Is it possible? Does this kind of thing really exist? Don't doubt the decision of the Great Eastern powers. Have you not been beaten enough in the face? Isn't this the Gundam recorded before the Ice Age? Is the Great Eastern Power finally starting to build Gundam? Don't stop me. I'm ready to participate in this project. Death. Chapter 616. The whole world knows that Dongfang has proposed a giant soldier plan to build a giant soldier city on the coast point, because the giant soldier they want to make is a huge robot. Each giant robot has a height of more than 200 meters, and there are currently 3 giant soldiers proposed. One was established near Xihai City. This giant soldier is dominated by Xihai City. One was established near Yanjing City, and the giant soldier of 773 was dominated by Yanjing City. One was established near the Antarctic. This giant soldier is dominated by the Antarctic Scientific Research Station. A large number of scientific research personnel are looking forward to it on the official website, because the official website said that this time the giant soldier plan needs to call a large number of scientific researchers from the private sector. Many scientific researchers know that whenever the country starts to convene non-governmental scientific research forces, it is the time when the Great Power Project is underway. Everyone dreamed of participating in the Great Power Project. After that, the official website finally released the next step of the Giants plan. The Yellow Sea Giants are mainly used in the deep sea. Researchers who prefer marine engineering research and development can apply for employment in Xihai City. The Yanjing Giants Army is mainly used for land disaster relief. Researchers who prefer land engineering can go to Yanjing to apply for employment, not to mention the Antarctic Giants. They are mainly used to fight cold waves. With the applicant unit, those scientific researchers came from all directions and went to these 3 locations one after another, and Ying Ziyue ordered to go down. The engineering assessment of these 3 locations is mainly based on the scientific research personnel of human structure engineering and mechanical engineering. In addition, the engineering team in charge of the city must build a giant city as soon as possible. The Giant God Soldier project is a long-term plan. The 3 giant god soldiers only built 3 giant soldiers in consideration of the current scientific research personnel in the East Point. The construction of these 3 giant soldiers is no less difficult than building a city. At this moment, a live broadcast website was top searched. The construction of the giant city. The huge giant soldier actually wants to build its own city alone. Ying Ziyue saw this website and was a little curious, so she directly clicked on it. What greeted you was an ice and snow, and that familiar face was reporter Xiu. Masters watching the game. I'm now over a snowy field near Xihai City. You may be aware of the recent turbulent plan for the giant god soldier. The minimum height of such a huge robot is 200 meters. Such a huge body makes it difficult to carry out its construction in the city, so the first step for the Great Eastern Power is to build a city of giant soldiers, a city built for the purpose of building giant soldiers. At this moment, the audience in the live broadcast room questioned, "Where is there any city here? There is nothing but a snowy field." As soon as the voice fell, a loud noise ran through the sky, and a huge flame flower appeared not far away from Xiu. "Don't worry, everyone, this is coming." I saw the flower of flame dispersed. A huge pothole appeared on the ground, and a large number of snow chariots appeared near the pothole. "Hurry up." One engineer after another began to carry out engineering operations, and not long after, one after another engineering trucks brought reinforced concrete. Xiu smiled slightly. "Everyone, this is the construction site." Ying Ziyue saw this scene in the live broadcast room and said in her heart, "This Xiu has something." So he can know the construction site for the first time. Chapter 617. This Xiu was able to find the construction site as his homework, but it was not important. Ying Ziyue smiled slightly, just to let audiences all over the world see what is called Eastern speed. The East is known as an infrastructure madman. Xiu was broadcasting, "Live in the sky for just 1 hour. The potholes that were originally destroyed by geothermal bombs have been opened up and become the solid foundation of the giant city." The steel bars crisscrossed each other for an hour, and the foundation of the entire city was completed. The engineering truck transports materials back and forth, and there is no time to stop. At this time, the shocked voices in Xiu's live broadcast 02 were even more ups and downs, and the speed of the great powers was like a miracle in their eyes. "My god, I just had a meal. How did the anchor cut the screen?" "Anchor, don't fast forward. This is a live broadcast. How fast forward it is at normal speed. My god. Is this the infrastructure madman?" For a while, the entire live studio saw the speed of the East's infrastructure. Xiu glanced at the sky and then said, "Everyone, it's getting late. Let's get here first, and tomorrow we will be on the ground to do a follow-up report for everyone." As a result, when Xiu arrived at the construction site the next day, he was so frightened that he did not drop the camera in his hand to the ground. The audience in the live broadcast room dropped their jaws in shock and shouted, "Eastern infrastructure crazy demon deserves its name." In just one night, Xiu saw a city wall frame made of steel. In just one night, Dongfang has completed the construction of the city wall frame. If this continues, the city's walls can be completed during the day today. If this continues, a complete city can be built in 3 days. Everyone was shocked and built a city in 3 days. Is this the Eastern speed? Xiu got the shooting permit and walked into the city of giant soldiers. After he walked into the city, he saw the outline of the city. Because the giant soldier is tall, the construction drawings of this giant soldier city are like a towering chimney. The wall of a city is 500 meters high, and in the center of the city, a steel platform deep into the ground. The city actually opened up underground space. In other words, the height of the ground plus the height of the ground, the overall height of the city has reached kilometers. Horrible. Is the Eastern engineering team a god? Such a huge project was actually done overnight. Dear friends from the audience, you see the giant city of soldiers under construction. The height of the city's walls has reached an unprecedented height of kilometers, and this horrible height of the city wall was only built in 24 hours. It is not difficult to guess that, if the speed of the project is 777, the East will complete the horrible achievement of building a city in 3 days. It was so horrible that viewers from all over the West were also watching this live broadcast. When they heard the words, to build a city in 3 days, they were even more stunned. The next day passed, and the entire city wall had been poured. The extremely cold environment made the cement become an extremely hard city wall within 5 minutes of being poured out. Afterwards, the engineering team began to lay insulation materials and construct cold-resistant measures for the city walls. On the third day, the entire giant god soldier city has been able to see the prototype, and the city wall has been put into use. After 3 days, a brand new city of giant soldiers appeared in front of everyone. Building a city in 3 days. Chapter 618. With the perfect completion of Xihai City, the giant city around Huanghai City, the Zhuanwu City around Yanjing, and the iceberg city around the Antarctic Research Station have been completed one after another. All of the speeches about these 3 giant soldier cities were flying all over the sky, and one giant soldier occupied the foundation of a city, which shows how huge this giant soldier is. I thought this city of giant soldiers had already been laid, but everyone in the world was wrong. After the completion of Xihai City on the 3rd day, the workers did not stop their work, and carts of supplies came from all directions. Xihai was a little puzzled for a while. This Xihai City has been constructed, and can be put into use in an instant. What else do these workers do? When the world was full of doubts, the East once again showed the characteristics of their infrastructure madness. A large number of workers started construction around Xihai City. Not only that, but the other 2 cities are also under construction. That is to say, the workers opened 4 openings within an hour, and then began to lay the foundations. Seeing truck after truck of materials were delivered. Xiu looked at the trucks of engineering materials and found that heat-resistant materials accounted for the majority. It is necessary to know that most of the construction of the city wall is mainly made of cold-resistant materials, and this kind of project with a large number of heat-resistant materials, Xiu boldly guessed that it was a steel tower. Steel-making tower is a kind of auxiliary building used for giant machinery. Generally, steel-making tower is built next to giant machinery. While steel is made, the steel produced is directly cooled and used, saving most of the transportation time. Xiu put forward this guess, which was recognized by most people in the live broadcast room. However, the next project left them completely puzzled, and they saw that the tower in front of them was as high as a kilometer in just a few days, from a distance. These 4 steel-making towers rushed straight into the sky like a towering tower in the myth. Such a tall steel-making tower. This is the first time I have seen. Only the infrastructural madmen of the East can accomplish such a terrifying miracle. Only the East can build a giant soldier, and other countries can't make it. Even if they give it, the terrifying infrastructure speed of the East is enough to lead the world. Rumble. After the completion of the steel tower, I only had a day's rest, and then I started working. A huge roar came from inside the steel-making tower, and the scorching temperature radiated to the surroundings unscrupulously. I saw that the frozen soil around the steel tower began to evaporate at a speed visible to the naked eye, exposing the ground. Standing next to the steel tower, Xiu felt that he was bathed in the spring breeze and walked into the steel tower. The world was once again shocked that the interior of this steel-making tower actually uses geothermal particles as a heating furnace. No Matter how hard the metal is under the heating of geothermal particles, it will not last 3 seconds, and it will turn into a large amount of molten iron in the blink of an eye. A large amount of molten iron flows into the channel at the bottom along the pipe, and the entire steel making tower is covered with hot pipes, zao, as strong as the blood vessels of the human body. It's just that hot molten iron flows in these blood vessels. People working in the steel making tower are all wearing heat resistant protective clothing, and you can feel the astonishing temperature inside the steel making tower while wearing the heat resistant protective clothing. Looking at the molten iron lake in front of you, these molten iron are all important materials that make up the parts of the giant god soldier. I saw the blacksmith drew out a large amount of molten iron and used a huge hammer to temper it after cooling down. Chapter 619. The 4 steel making towers work non-stop 24 hours a day and produce more than 10 tons of steel every day. I saw that these steels were transported into Xihai City after thousands of tempers in Xihai City at this time. A large number of mechanical noises continued to flow, and I saw that the outer area was piled up with many steel blocks. The smallest of these steel blocks are 100 cubic meters in size, and the steel tracks crisscross one after another over Xihai City. Now Xihai City is full of mechanical arms. Engineers operate a variety of huge tools and perform a series of operations. The huge mechanical arm followed the steel track and came to the sky above the steel block. Subsequently, the robotic arm picked up the square piece of steel. The surface of the robotic arm was equipped with an electromagnet, so there was no fear of the steel piece falling. The huge steel block was sent to the processing department and placed on the transportation track. A giant chainsaw fell from the sky. A chainsaw mixed with fine golden superalloy and easily split the steel block into 2. The steel block that was split in half continued to move forward and then encountered a geothermal reactor. Under the hot geothermal heat, the steel block quickly heated up and became extremely hot. Afterwards, the steel block was clamped by the manipulator and placed on a platform. With a loud bang, a huge hammer fell from the sky, pressing the steel block into steel sheets. This was not over yet. Only a few workers sprinkled some fine gold ore powder on the hot steel sheet. After the completion, the platform under the steel sheet began to fold. The steel sheets were folded into small pieces of steel, and then the hammer continued to smash down, and the workers again sprinkled fine gold ore powder. Just after several times of tempering, the steel block was sent to the top of the geothermal furnace to be heated again. After a lot of tempering, the original black steel now showed a purple halo, and its sturdiness has been improved again. Even a full power geothermal furnace needs to be heated for an hour to deform it. This is the evolutionary version of purple gold alloy, and it is also the main material for building giant soldiers. Compared with the superalloy of the same volume and the Xihai alloy, the latter is lighter in weight, and the hardness is not inferior to the former. These purple gold alloys were shaped into special bone shapes one after another. And after careful analysis by the giant soldiers, it became a huge steel skeleton. The huge construction machinery, the huge steel body, the huge city. In this Xihai City, everything has been magnified. Compared with these huge devices, human beings are so small, but it is such a small human being who has created such a huge giant soldier. At this time, the center of Xihai City had already established a 600-meter elevated. In the deep pit at the bottom of the elevated point, engineers are gesturing in the air how to fix such a huge giant soldier. At this time, the giant soldier has completed the assembly of the foot bones, and each bone is the size of a truck. It is hard to imagine that when this giant soldier is really available, the whole world will fall into madness. Pieces of bones were assembled and installed in an orderly manner. It didn't take long for a huge steel body to appear in front of everyone in Xihai City. Although the current giant soldier only has a steel skeleton, he can already imagine its stalwart body. Xihai giants are mostly used for deep sea use. We can use the technical reference of deep sea ships on it. Chapter 620. As time goes by, the official website will broadcast news about giant soldiers from time to time. Discussions about giant soldiers on the internet have intensified, and some people have even begun to speculate whether the Xihai soldiers of the Yellow Sea, the basalt soldiers of Yanjing, or the iceberg soldiers are stronger. Ying Ziyue couldn't help but smile when she watched the comments on the internet. There was even someone who specially asked him to reveal the news, faced with the curiosity of netizens. Ying Ziyue just said that each giant soldier has a different purpose. There is no difference between strength and weakness. Just as there was a lot of noise in the face of the giants on the internet, the three giants of the city finally encountered their first problem. At this time, in Xihai City, Xihai City, a huge mechanical arm appeared in front of everyone. This huge arm was the right arm of the giant soldier. The skeleton of the robotic arm is made of purple gold alloy, which can withstand tens of thousands of tons of pressure, and its shell is made of superalloy. Graphene is used for the inner wall protection, and the muscle fibers are made of nano-level protective liquid. You must know that the main role of this nano-level protective liquid is to create a barrier for submarine cities, with extremely strong buffering and malleability. Not only that, the internal cables of the robotic arm extend in all directions. In order to construct this robotic arm, a professor of human neurology was specially invited to give guidance. This mechanical arm is entirely a reinforced and enlarged model of a human arm, and the internal energy line is made of supernuclear plastic, which is a superplastic that is heat resistant, cold resistant and compressive. The energy flowing in it comes from its core, which is a fusion of 10 geothermal engines, a super geothermal heart. The power generation of the super geothermal heart is enough to support the basic electricity consumption of 10 cities. It can be said that the giant soldiers are the wisdom crystallization of most of the technology of human civilization so far. At this moment, the right arm of the giant soldier who was hung on the overhead moved slightly, and the electronic unit of the giant soldier's right arm emitted a lot of flashes. All the engineers looked at the giant soldier's right arm and saw the giant soldier's right arm slightly lifted, moving 5 fingers, and then turned into a dead object again, as if it had been lost. Seeing this scene, the engineers shook their heads and sighed. It seems that this is not the first time they have seen this scene. Zero fine flowers. At this time, a professor on the elevated platform was in the control room, and his right arm was covered with a large number of instruments. Just now, he was controlling the right arm of the giant soldier. A lot of blood came out of the professor's nose, and the staff on the side quickly took the instrument off the professor's body. No way, no way. This giant soldier has too many nerve units, and most people can't control this huge weapon at all. Zero, that's right. Now they have encountered one of the most difficult problems. That is, there is no suitable driver after the giant soldier's arm manufactured. After this professor connected the nerve connector, he was extremely reluctant to control the giant soldier's right arm, not to mention that when the giant soldier was completely manufactured, he controlled the whole to move. The experiment is in a deadlock, and the huge nerve unit of the giant soldier has extremely strict requirements on the human body's spirit point. But if the nerve unit on its body is reduced, the giant soldier is just a piece of iron that can move. Ying Ziyue received the news, touched her chin, and then said, "I will solve this problem. You don't need to worry about it, just continue to make it." Died. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621. What is required to measure the IQ of the human brain? Leader Ying, do you want to test it? We have special equipment here. No, what I need is a fast and zero threshold test method. If you need it, Team Leader Ying, I can instruct the Information Development Department to develop a small game that can test IQ in a short time. For humans, games can make the 780 brain relax its vigilance and then conduct tests to obtain the most realistic data point. Upon hearing this, Ying Ziyue nodded. Develop this game as soon as possible, and then put this game on the official website for people to download. Within a few days, a mysterious game appeared on the official website, and everyone couldn't help but become curious how the official website launched a seemingly unremarkable little game, and everyone downloaded it for curiosity. In just one day, the number of game downloads has exceeded 100 million. Ying Ziyue smiled and said, "I don't believe that among the population of 100 million, there are still few geniuses." Soon, a large amount of data was uploaded mechanically to the central information network, only to see, since the game was launched, the ranking on the leaderboard is constantly changing. These games exist to test the IQ of the gaming crowd, and the first place in the ranking is already a score point. It's among ordinary people. It can be regarded as the existence of high IQ, but Ying Ziyue wants more than just points. He must be a genius and possess a very high brain talent if he wants to find talents who can manipulate giant soldiers. After 3 days and 3 nights of fierce pursuit, the top 3 on the leaderboard have finally been set. The score for the first place is as high as 185 points, which is definitely a genius level. And this number 1 has been on the top of the leaderboard the next day after the game was released, and has never moved its position since then. The second place score is more than 150 points. Not only that, until the 100th place is a genius with more than 140 points. Even more surprising is that the top 10 players are all from the East. Ying Ziyue smiled slightly. Since the beginning of the Ice Age, the East has been in the era of development for all people to learn. And the brain development of the people of the East is absolutely ahead of other nations. Therefore, Ying Ziyue is not surprised by this result. Subsequently, Ying Ziyue wanted to invite these 100 players at the same time, and he wanted to convene these 100 players to the same place for unified training. Giant soldiers are not just as simple as building these 3. There will still be other giant soldiers being built one after another. Strict driving qualifications make it necessary for Ying Ziyue to cultivate the drivers of the giant soldiers in advance. For a while, people all over the world exploded, and the mysterious game originally published on the official website was actually a test of the giant soldier pilot. Many people are very upset. Why didn't they work hard at the time? Maybe if you work hard, you can enter the training of the giants pilots and drive the true 5.5 square giants. The 100 players who were selected were ecstatic. They came to Yanjing, where they saw the real giant soldiers. In Xihai City, the upper body of the giant god soldier has been constructed. Looking at the burly steel giant in front of them, everyone's eyes are shining with joy. The next step is to see if you can control this giant soldier. Chapter 622. 100 giant soldiers pilots were selected. When they saw the huge giant soldiers, the enthusiasm in their eyes burned like a raging fire. Thinking of the opportunity to drive such a huge giant soldier later, their hearts burned like flames. I must be the first driver of the giant god soldier. Although my test scores are not as good as yours, I will not give up easily. Originally I thought this giant soldier was nothing, but when I saw his true face, now I changed my mind. These geniuses pride themselves in their usual lives, but when they see such a huge and stalwart giant soldier, the pride of their hearts was immediately crushed. Compared with this great and majestic project, their pride is simply vulnerable. Now, they just want to be the first driver to drive a giant soldier. Ninghu, or thin young man, was called by Ying Ziyue, and the young man looked gentle with round eyes. Ying Ziyue said, "You are the first in the test. Now you can test in advance whether you can withstand the mental oppression of the giant soldiers." Ninghu's test results can definitely be regarded as a genius among geniuses. If he can't even withstand the mental oppression of a giant soldier, then there is no one in this world who can drive a giant soldier. In the envious eyes of everyone, Ying Ziyue took Ninghu into Xihai City. In Xihai City at this time, the researchers still did not give up and started the second test. I saw the giant soldier's arms raise slightly and then fell. Ying Ziyue came to the control room, and the professor controlling the giant soldier had fainted on the chair. "Go, now is your time." When the manipulators of the giant soldiers saw the young man brought by Ying Ziyue, they couldn't help but stunned. "Is this young man alright?" Ninghu sat in the simulated cockpit obediently, and the staff connected one data line after another to Ninghu's body. When I first connected to the neural network of the giant god soldier, there might be a feeling of dizziness in the brain. Hold on, I have no problem. Let's get started quickly. In the face of such a magical giant soldier, Ninghu used to boast genius indifferently, and he seemed a little nervous the moment he connected to the neural network. Start connecting to the neural network of the giant god soldier. Turn on the analog power system of the giant god soldier. Start recording the life data of the driver. Ready. Clear the security personnel near the giant soldiers. The giant god soldier is activated. Buzzing. The gear parts on the body of the giant soldier began to rotate. Lying in the cockpit, Ninghu frowned slightly. Point at this moment, the giant soldiers began to move, and the engineers saw the giant soldiers moving, and they looked like they were not surprised. Point. But then there was a scene that shocked them. The giant soldier slowly raised his right hand and made a completely okay gesture. The giant soldier is alive, and now the giant soldier is more than just raising his hand. Ying Ziyue smiled slightly when seeing the giant soldier making that action. Ninghu, if you can hear us, you can sign a scissor hand. As expected, the fingers of the giant soldier began to move slowly and changed into a scissor hand movement. Chapter 623. Successful. Did the giant soldiers compete with a scissors hand just now? I'm not dazzled. Have you already found the pilot who controls the giant soldiers? Yes, the giant soldier was indeed being manipulated just now. All the workers looked at the cockpit, and Ninghu opened his eyes from the cockpit at this time. Point at this time, his eyes were far less lifeless than when they came before, but full of excitement and novelty. The recorder on the side hurriedly came over and asked, "How is it? When I just drove the Titan soldier, was there anything wrong with it?" "No, don't you feel anything? It might still be a bit uncomfortable to drive a giant soldier for the first time, and my head is a little dizzy." "What else? Is there a feeling of ki and blood surging?" "Absolutely not. My god, he was simply born for the giant soldier. He is the most perfect giant soldier driver." At this moment, Ying Ziyue pulled Ninghu up and said, "It's too early to speak. He hasn't received formal training yet, so he can't use giant soldiers as an official driver." The recorder on the side said quickly, "Win leader, this kid is definitely related to our basalt soldiers. If the training is over, you must send it to our basalt city. We'll talk about it then." Ying Ziyue took Ninghu and left Xuanwu City. But this matter was not over yet, and it didn't take long before the video of Ninghu driving the giant soldier came out from nowhere. Fortunately, this video only shows a clip of the Titan soldier that can perform normal operations, and does not reveal the identity of Ninghu. This clip immediately caused an uproar on the internet, and many people directly guessed that the Eastern Great Kingdom has completed the creation of the giant soldier. And it is a complete time to wait. Ying Ziyue looked at the rumors on the internet and ignored the rumors, but said to the 100 players, "I believe you also know that the giant soldiers are national strategic weapons. The degree of difficulty is no less than that of special forces training. If anyone wants to quit now, I can agree." Ying Ziyue looked around. No one had the intention to quit. Quit? How is this possible? Being able to have the driving qualification of a giant soldier, this is the highest glory that 100 million people can't get. Subsequently, these geniuses began to conduct civil training. After that, all the people found out that the detailed content of the giant soldiers on the official website was blocked. It was not until a week later that a live broadcast room appeared on the official website, and the giant soldiers appeared in front of everyone again. But this time, people all over the world are beginning to fall into a state of madness. The title of the live broadcast room is exactly "The First Test of the Giant God Soldier." The giant god soldier actually completed the construction in this short period of 1 week. In fact, Zhao long ago, the giant god soldier had already begun the finishing touches. But because of the lack of the driver, it has been delayed. After finding a driver who could drive the giant soldiers, everyone's interest was mobilized. The siege speed also accelerated a lot, and the assembly of the giant soldiers was completed in just 1 week. It's just that the current giant soldiers are only the first generation, with only the most basic mobile functions, but this is enough. Chapter 624. This is the Western Icefield area, ready to receive basalt soldiers. This is the air transport unit, the giant soldier, and there are 5 minutes to reach the designated location. I have seen the target, and I'm preparing to land. Everyone in the live broadcast room stared at the screen closely, because this was the first giant soldier to put into the test, the Xuanwu soldier, among the basalt soldiers at this time. Ninghu was wearing a black driving suit and sitting in the cockpit. The number of people in the live broadcast room exceeded 100 million in just 1 hour. Xuanwu is expected to have reached the sky above the target and is ready to start launching. With a click, as the transport plane opened the basalt buckle, the body of the basalt began to vacate into the air in a state of free fall and fell towards the target location. The huge body of the basalt soldiers used a total of 20 transport planes to move through the air. Under the eyes of everyone, the basalt soldiers landed on the ground and smashed a huge hole, and for a while, ice and snow flew around, and when Ninghu fell into the cockpit at an altitude of hundreds of meters, he only felt a slight tremor in his body, but did not feel any other tremors. After that, Ninghu began to operate the basalt soldiers, only to see the basalt soldiers stand up slowly, then lifted their feet, and stepped out of the huge pothole step by step. This is not over yet. Under the full view of everyone, the basalt soldiers actually started to run, with their huge body on the ground, running wildly. Rumble. The huge roar sounded like a Thor's hammer, slamming on the ground fiercely point across the screen. Everyone can feel the sense of power from the basalt soldiers from the opposite side, as if he is the embodiment of the earth. The basalt soldiers began to run, and at this moment, everyone's eyes were once again attracted to the past, because there was an iceberg along the basalt soldiers' movement route. The height of this iceberg is several hundred meters high. The basalt soldiers didn't care about the iceberg in front of them, and rushed forward bravely. What's the matter? Can't he see an iceberg in front of him? Why don't he know to avoid it? No, it's not that he can't avoid it, it's that he didn't intend to avoid it at all. What's the meaning? Could it be that he is going to hit this iceberg with his steel body directly? My god, how is this possible? What's impossible is that it is a giant soldier built in the east. I believe it. At this moment, a loud bang suddenly sounded like thunder on the ground. With this huge crash, even the tester's face changed slightly. The iceberg shattered, and a large amount of broken ice scattered around like a torrential rain. Amidst the ice and snow, a familiar figure appeared in front of everyone. My god, he succeeded. He successfully smashed the iceberg. This scene is deeply imprinted in the minds of audiences all over the world. The basalt soldier is like a giant on the ice sheet. He is the invincible god of war. Ninghu was sitting in the cockpit, and at the moment he rushed to the iceberg, he also had a little hesitation in his heart, but now all these hesitations have disappeared as the iceberg shattered. On the ice sheet, the Xuanwu soldiers stood proudly, and everyone in Xuanwu City began to cheer when they saw this scene. As long as they think of such a powerful and burly weapon from their hands, they can't help but become proud. Chapter 625. In Xihai City at this time, when Nang Wenshi, the person in charge of Xihai Soldier, saw the live broadcast, he chuckled. This giant soldier was pulled out for work before the full moon. Captain Farm, we can't slack off. HMPH, what are you slacking about? Our Xihai City is slow to work hard. At that time, let those guys see what the real giant soldier is. At this time, the Xihai soldier also started the final assembly, and the whole body of the Xihai soldier was sea blue, and all the exterior paintings were made of waterproof materials. The only thing worth mentioning about Xihai is that it can work 20,000 meters deep into the sea. The main battlefield of Xihai soldiers is different from that of basalt soldiers. The main battlefield of basalt soldiers is on land, but they are in the sea. Brothers, it's the final critical moment. Show some energy to those guys in Xuanwu City. Don't worry, foreman, we will never let others look down upon our Xihai City. Buzzing. The huge mechanical arms mobilized Xihai soldiers' limbs from all directions. These mechanical arms installed the limbs of the Xihai soldier on the torso. Subsequently, a large number of engineers came from all directions and landed on the joint of the Xihai soldier on a sling. A large number of sparks lit up. Dozens of engineers began to work at the same time, and soon, the basic assembly of Xihai soldier was also completed. Nang Wenshi smiled and said, have you seen it? We can do what Xuanwu City can do. Prepare for it, and start the first test of the giant god soldier. Don't be violent. Those guys in the city are better than that. At this moment, Ying Ziyue of Yanjing received a message. Leader Ying, our icebreaker found a glacial continent in the sea that is heading towards the Yellow Sea coastline. It is expected to fully hit the Yellow Sea coastline in 3 days. Yellow Sea. It wasn't exactly where Xihai City was. Ying Ziyue frowned slightly and immediately connected to Xihai City's phone point soon. The people in Xihai City knew that a huge glacier continent was approaching them. Now when she frowned, never expected that the first disaster came so quickly, and it was clear that Xihai had not conducted the first test yet. Thinking of this, Nang when she suddenly said, "Cancel the arrangement of the first test, immediately arm the giant soldiers, and require that they be able to resist disasters in 2 days. Zero fine flowers Captain Farmer. Are you sure you want to go directly to the actual combat without going through the test? Time is too late. Only Xihai soldiers can fight this disaster." For a while, Xihai City, which had calmed down, has now started to work in full swing. 2 days later, Xihai City could obviously feel the recent temperature drop. The reason for the drop in temperature is precisely because the huge glacier continent is approaching the Yellow Sea. The cold wave emitted by the glacier continent makes the temperature of the Yellow Sea colder than other cities. The huge iceberg has reached the sea area monitored by the Yellow Sea at this time. If this huge iceberg continent is allowed to crash into the coastline of the Yellow Sea City, it will cause a huge tsunami and earthquake, and it will definitely destroy the Yellow Sea City. At this moment, the iron gate of Xihai City opened, and the Xihai soldier with a body of steel came out of it, accompanied by a roar. The Xihai soldier stepped into the sea. The water depth of the port only reached its waist. Death. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.